Good morning to everyone at today's public hearing of the Prosecutor Vetting Commission. My name is Christopher Lehman, Chairperson of the Commission, and I declare this session to be open. Our commission is established under Law 252 on the external evaluation of judges and prosecutors. Under Article 22, Paragraph 13 of that law, it provides that this commission will assess candidates for the Superior Council of Prosecutors Discipline and Ethics Board, according to the procedures and criteria as regulated by Law 26 of 2022 on measures related to the selection of candidates for the position of members in the self-administration bodies of the prosecutors. The hearing is also being conducted under the Commission's Rules of Procedure for evaluations conducted under Law 26. The subject of today's hearing is Ion Tetcu, a candidate for the Superior Council of Prosecutors Discipline and Ethics Board. Mr. Tetcu, welcome to the hearing today. I'm joined by my colleagues from my far right, Nadezhda Hryptievsky, from second to right, Ermontis Michalonis, to my immediate right, Virginia Marraro, the Vice Chairman of the Commission, to my far left, Cornel Lebedinsky, and to my immediate left, Saskia de Vries. The Commission is also assisted by members of its Secretariat. The hearing is open to the public and members of the media. The hearing will be conducted in Romanian and English with simultaneous interpretation. For that reason, I ask the candidate and everyone else to speak slowly and clearly. The proceedings are being recorded. The recordings of the Commission's public hearings will be available online within 3 days after the hearing on the Commission's website. Mr. Tetcu, during the hearing, one or more members of the Commission will ask questions to you. Please answer them truthfully and completely. Your explanations are important to the Commission in verifying and evaluating your financial and ethical integrity. In formulating our questions, we'll take into account your privacy and, where relevant, privacy of your close persons and family members. To that end, we'll leave out any unnecessary details with regards to ID numbers, bank account numbers, or street addresses. For your protection and safety, we would advise you to do the same in answering questions. At the end of the hearing, we'll provide you with an opportunity to make a closing statement to the Commission. I'll start by briefly reviewing the evaluation process for the candidate. The Commission initiated its evaluation process on the 22nd of December, 2023, by notifying the candidate by email and asking him to complete and return an ethics questionnaire and a financial declaration form. The candidate returned the completed questionnaire and declarations on the 29th of December, 2023. As part of the candidate's ethical and financial integrity, the Commission also obtained information from a variety of other sources, such as the National Integrity Authority, the State Fiscal Service, the General Inspectorate of the Border Police, financial institutions, open sources, public institutions. The Commission assesses the information it obtains from these sources for relevance and reliability. The Commission also sent you 5 rounds of questions. Those were sent on the 22nd of August. Actually, I'm not sure I have all the dates here. Do we have the file with the dates that were the dates of the checklist, the beginning of the checklist? There's an error in my script. Go down to the questions.
Yeah.
Keep going. No. Oh, here they are. I don't think that.
22nd.
Yeah, I don't think it's updated.
22nd.
So there were 3 rounds of questions.
1, 2, 3. Yes.
Cornell, 3 rounds of questions?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion. I just wanted to make sure we're accurate. We sent you 3 rounds of questions on the 22nd of August 2024, the 22nd of October 2024, and the 19th of November 2024. You responded to all of those questions. I just want to make sure that I have the right record. On the 22nd of November of 2024, the Commission invited you to attend today's hearing. At that time, we notified you of the specific topics to be addressed at the hearing. Ion Tetcu, thank you again for appearing today. I'll begin with a couple of questions for you, and I ask you to respond in a complete and truthful manner. First of all, simply, do you wish to make any additions or corrections to the answers that were provided by you to the Commission in our request for information?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished Chair of the Commission and honorable members of the Commission, I would like to thank you for giving me the possibility to address the doubts that the Commission has about me. Honestly speaking, although I've provided answers, there's been the third round of questions following the third one. I was and I still am convinced, persuaded that I've addressed, that I've mitigated the doubts. Still, in that notification regarding this hearing, it appears that was not quite the case, that I wasn't quite right, yet I remain open and want to collaborate with the Commission to answer with sincerity all questions, and I would like to reaffirm the accuracy of the answers that I have provided in the ethics questionnaire and the further additional clarifications that I have provided during the rounds of questions and answers. At this moment in time, there's nothing I would like to adjust as regards my answers I've provided for all the three rounds of questions. I would like, though, to tell the Commission to begin with that, given that so far I haven't obtained, as you well know, as the Commission knows, I haven't been given an answer from the agency, the National Agency of Cadastre and Real Estate Property from Romania. My commitment is to share it with you as soon as I receive it, so my commitment stays the same as far as this is concerned. And I would like to share, though, with the Commission at this moment in time, I would like to share with the Commission an extract from the current account of the insured person for 2012, the entire year, and then another excerpt that I have for the entire year 2011 with regards to my wife. Now, this document shows the allowances, the single monthly allowance.
I'm going to stop you right there. So I will let Mr. Lebedinsky will be asking you questions, so it would probably be clearer if you do have additional information that you want to now present, to do that in the context of his question. So why don't we reserve that, but I'll note that you do wish to make some additional corrections and answers to information that you've previously submitted. Let me ask a second question, though, just which is a prefatory question. With regards to the answers that you provided in the 5-year declaration and the ethics questionnaire that you returned on the 29th of December 2023, are those accurate as of today?
Exact, sunt valabile, inclusiv cu completările relevate parcursul rundilor de întrebări și răspunsuri.
Supplementation that was provided during the questions and answers, information that I learned all the time after that. So I do confirm that.
Și nu am nimic de adăugat.
I have nothing to add.
So at this time, I am going to yield the floor to Mr. Lebedinsky, who will be following up with some specific questions. Thank you.
Bună ziua, stimate domnule procuror Tetcu.
Esteemed Prosecutor Tetcu, hello, I have several areas of questions and some preparatory clarifications.
Dumneavoastră ați studiat prevederile legislației
Did
naționale cu
you
privire la declarații
study the provisions of a national legislation
interese personale,
on declaration of assets and in personal interest? I mean, Law 133, Law 132, as well as NIA recommendations on how these declarations are to be filled out, as well as the previous ones from the National Integrity Council before the new legal provisions came into force?
Mulțumesc, confirm că
Thank you.
cunosc
I confirm, I
reglementările
know
legii 133
the
din
provisions of
2016, inclusiv
Law
și toate
133 of
modificările
2016 and its
care
further
s-au operat la
amendments,
această lege, inclusiv
to this law,
acea instrucțiune
including
oferită
the
de
instruction provided by NIA.
Ceea ce nu aș putea să
What
bine
I
să
cannot,
mi-asum că am cunoscut în exact
commit
cadrul
to
normativ
knowing
care
precisely is the
mă obliga ca subiect al
regulatory
declarării
framework
până în
that obliged
2016
me as
să
a
formulez
declarant
aceste
until
declarații, eu rog cu
2016 to
detalii și
provide
argumente de
these
ce
declarations. I
fac
want to
această
argue
afirmație, că
why
nu era
I'm making
clar
these
cadrul
statements,
normativ la
because
acel moment,
the
erau
legal framework
probleme
was
de
not clear at that
interpretare și
time. There were
probabil, după
issues
cum
with
Comisia,
interpreting it.
nu știu,
And as
în
the
opinia mea,
Commission, in my
Consiliul
opinion,
Comisia a testat
I
în
think
raport cu
that
alți
the
subiecte
Commission
de evaluare
found
care au fost până la
in
mine,
relation to other
totuși până în
subjects of
2016
evaluation
noi
before me,
subiecții
but
al
until
declarării, nu vreau să
2016,
generalizez în raport cu
we,
toți, dar marea
subjects of
majoritate
declaration, the declarants,
le
I
completam
can't say that
aceste
everyone,
declarații,
but
mă refer
most
până în
of us,
2016,
until 2016, I mean,
le completam
we
în
were
birou.
filling them out in
Acest
the
lucru
office,
poate să
and
fie,
this
el poate să le confirm însuși declarațiile
is confirmed
respectivii
by
ani,
the declarations
pare
for
până în
those
2012 le sunt la
years. I
publicate
think
pe site-ul
2012 they are published on
faptul că
NIA
eu
website.
am
And
interpretat
the fact that
greșit
I
și
interpreted
eronat legislația la acel
wrongly the
moment
legislation at
și
that
că nu
time,
cunoșteam
and that I did not
exact
know
și corect cum se completează,
precisely how to fill that out.
am să rog Comisia
And
să
I
atragă
would like
atenția
to
la
ask the
declarațiile
Commission, I'd like to draw your attention to the declarations
mele de venituri și proprietate pentru
income and
anul
property for
2012.
2012.
Eu
Where
donațiile
I-
la cele depuse
Do you
suplimentar
mean
în
the one
2023,
additionally
da?
filed in 2023?
Să
No.
demonstrez comisii că
In order to
ceea ce spun
prove
acum
to
nu
the
este o
Commission that what I'm
justificare,
saying
dar
now is
este o
not
stare de
just a
fapt reală a
justification,
lucrurilor
but
care
it's a
mi-o asum
natural or it's a
și
true state of things that
recunosc
I
că, într-adevăr, am admis o încălcare
take
expresă a
responsibility for, and I
legii
understand that I committed a violation of the law back then in 2012, 13, 14, when I filed the declarations. It was done in a haste, they were filled out in the office, you couldn't manage to check all the information because it was an issue checking it, especially because this is related to me. I mean specifically donations, because in that time my family did not keep such documents. Everything was done based on what you remembered. And honestly, that's how things were. And this doesn't justify me. But when in 2023, when I was subject to the evaluation, sorry, we will get to there. I corrected them. But again, I'll get back to that. Thank you for your answer. The next question is about your career in police, namely, how long have you worked at the, in police and what positions did you have? From what I remember, I worked there 9 years, 2 months. I started my career. You mean the positions or just a period? And the positions. I had a growing career in the Ministry of Interior. I started with a sector police officer, then I was a senior sector police officer. I worked since 2004, February, after graduation, continuously until 2010 in December, when I decided to go for a prosecutorial position, and I left the Ministry of Interior bodies and I moved into the prosecutorial system where I work to this day. In the Ministry of Interior I also had a position. I worked in Călăraș for some time, then I was transferred to Rezina district. I also worked as a sector police officer. Then in Rezina I was promoted to criminal investigation officer, and then I was transferred to Chișinău municipality, to Buiucani sector, and I was also a criminal investigation officer where I climb the
din urmărire
ladder
penală până la ofițer
from
superior.
criminal investigation
apoi, în
officer to
2010,
senior officer, and then in
în
2010,
decembrie, la
in
finalul,
December, at the end of the year,
acced în funcție de procuror.
I became a
Dar vă
prosecutor.
mulțumesc mult.
Thank you very much.
Înțeleg motivul
From what I
demisionării
understand, your
dumneavoastră
reason
din
of
sistemul poliției a
leaving
fost
the
faptul
police
că v-ați
system
transferat
was
în
that you
sistemul procuraturii,
got
da?
transferred
Exact.
into the
Da, vă
prosecution
mulțumesc.
service. Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Mă interesează în perioada
I
2008
wonder the
2010
period
până la demisie,
2008-2010, before your resignation, were there any
disciplinare?
disciplinary comments or sanctions applied to you?
Ceea ce mi-amintesc,
From what I remember,
eu am fost stimulat,
I was I got commendations, actually, qualification degree, got a high military rank.
avansat în grad militar.
So I advanced as a
funcție
military
și,
rank, also advanced in my
grad de
position,
calificare
and qualification degree, I
Cam
think.
atât. Probabil
That's
premiu
it.
bănuiesc atunci când,
Maybe
dar
some
nu sunt sigur.
Vă
monetary
mulțumesc.
Perioada
prize
deci
as
nu am
well, but I don't remember
mult
exactly.
timp și,
That
sincer,
was long ago.
Sancțiuni
Nu m-am-
nu au fost.
So no sanctions,
Deci,
no disciplinary sanction.
Pare mi s-au fost
I
Vorbim
think
2008, 2010.
I'm speaking about 2008 to 2010.
o anchetă de
I think there was,
a fost pare mi
maybe
o
not,
anchetă
I
de
think there was
serviciu
one
referire la
service
activitatea
inquiry
mea, dar,
about my work, into my work, but
dar nu, deci nu mi-amintesc exact
I just don't remember it
ce s-a
exactly.
soldat
how it ended.
această anchetă de serviciu.
Da, vă mulțumesc mult.
Thank you.
Trecem la primul capitol de
Let's
întrebări,
move to the
care se
first
va referi la acel
group of
drept
questions.
de
It will
la
be
locuințe
about
care v-a fost atribuit printr-o
the
hotărâre judecătorească
right for
din anul
housing that you
2009,
obtained
prin
through a
care
court decision in
administrația
2009,
publică
whereby
locală din
local
Chișinău a fost
authorities
obligată
of
să vă
Chișinău
ofere un spațiu
was
dumneavoastră și
obliged to
familiei
provide
dumneavoastră,
you
un
with
spațiu
housing for you
locativ.
and your family.
Dumneavoastră ați demisionat în
You
decembrie
resigned
2010.
In December 2010,
Ați inițiat proceduri
How
judiciare
that you
pentru
started
executarea hotărârii
legal proceeding
și
to
despăgubiri în anul
enforce the judgment and
2019,
obtain
cererea
a
dumneavoastră
compensation.
a fost
In
acceptată
2019,
și
your
s-au
request was
acordat 50.000
accepted, and you
de
provided
drept
50,000
despăgubiri
lei
ca
as
pagubă morală pentru neexecutarea
moral
hotărârii
damages
executată.
for
După
a
epuizarea
court decision not
cererilor
being
naționale,
enforced.
ați
And
atacat,
after exhausting domestic
la
remedies,
Curtea Europeană a
you
Drepturilor Omului
lodged an
în
application
anul
with the European Court of
2020
Human
ați
Rights.
depus cererea.
You filed your lodged your
Confirmați
application in
aceste
2020.
expuse?
Do you confirm it?
Yes,
Yes.
a fost așa ceva. Da.
Yes, this happened.
Cum comentați această
How do
situație
you
prin prisma
comment
faptului că în 2010
on this,
ați
given
părăsit
that
sistemul
in 2010
polițienesc,
you
adică
left
ați,
the police
ieșit
system.
din,
You left
nu mai erați subiect
You
al
were-
legii cu privire
you
la
were not
poliție și ați devenit
a
subiect
subject
al
of a law
legii
and
cu
police
privire la
anymore. You
procuratură.
became a subject of the law and prosecution service.
Am să explic că
I will
sunt eu
explain.
scuzat îndrăzneala, eu sunt nedumerit
sorry
de ce acest
for
tem
But I am
subiect fie
surprised
pus în discuție
why
cu
this
mine,
topic is
ori
being
și
discussed with
atunci
me,
răbdare
and
să
I will
minte
try
să explic
to
comisiei.
explain to
Deci,
the
da,
Commission.
într-adevăr,
Yes,
acea hotărâre de
indeed, that
judecată
court
definitivă
decision,
și
final
revocabilă,
and
prin
irrevocable,
care a fost obligată
whereby
municipalitatea să
the
ofere
municipality
Consiliului
or the
Municipal
city
să ne
hall and
acorde locuințe de
municipality
serviciu.
were
Ea nu
obliged
este
to provide me
executată
with
până în
housing. It hasn't been
Dar,
enforced
într-adevăr,
yet.
în 2010,
Indeed,
la
in
finalul anului,
2010,
exact data nu mi-am
the end of the year, I don't remember, maybe 28th,
exact.
I don't want to use precise dates, as I
Am,
don't remember.
deci a fost concediat din sistemul organelor afacerilor interne,
I resigned
nu în
from
legătură cu
the,
demisia, dar în legătură cu
I was
reîncadrarea în alte
So
instituții
I
și autorități,
resigned
cum
because
este, de fapt,
I was
poziția
employed into another
procuratură,
authority, the
care
prosecution
avea o
service.
lege la moment
The
de
prosecution
limitarea
service at
activității
that
acesteia.
time had a
Și
law
pare mi se
on
articolul
prosecution
37,
service, and I
dacă nu
think
mă înșală
Article
memoria,
37,
decizie
if I'm
pentru
not
acest
mistaken.
subiect, sau acest subiect a fost ani buni de către mine
Well,
abordat și
this
a rămas în
I
memorie.
addressed this issue for many years, so that's why I remember what article it was. So, according to that article, when I became a prosecutor, I also had the right to be provided with service housing and the obligation of a public authority
de a mă
as a
asigura.
public
Prin urmare,
debtor
în
to
opinia mea,
provide me with
a
housing.
fost
And
și
in
la
my
mine
opinion,
irațional
it was
să
irrational
formulez o
from
nouă
my point
acțiune
of
în
view to
justiție,
come up with a new
să obțin o nouă hotărâre de
lawsuit, to obtain
judecată
a
cu
new
același obiect,
court with the
subiect,
same
referit la
object and
aceeași
subject
party,
regarding the
și
same
mă confrunt cu
party
aceeași problemă,
and face
și
the
anume
same
lipsa
issue,
spațiului locativ
and
de
that was
serviciu,
lack of
de
service
serviciu
housing
și probleme în executare.
and issues with
În
its
opinia mea, deci
enforcement.
consider că
In my
autoritățile,
opinion, I believe
având în vedere că eu nu m-am
that
concediat din
authorities, since
sistemul
I did
organelor
not resign
interne,
from
eu, adică nu am
law
demisionat, în
enforcement,
care, care de fapt ar fi permis
which would
autorităților
have
statelor
allowed the
să
state
decadă acea
authorities
obligație de a mă asigura cu locuință, consider că ea se
for
perpetuează
that-
până în prezent.
So I believe that
Dar
that
în acest
obligation
sens,
of
probabil,
authorities to
Curtea
provide me with
Europeană de la
housing is still
Strasbourg,
valid, and to
se
this
va
end,
expune de curând
the
posibil, reieșind din
ECHR will
comunicarea
express
care
their
a fost
position, give as soon as possible, based on the communication that was provided to the government. The court states very clearly, saying that the practice and the approach is clear for the court, and
de curând posibil
soon they will provide a solution in
Consider că
relation to
ridicarea
my
unui
application. I
drept
believe
nu a
that
fost necesar să repet această
it
procedură.
wasn't
pentru
necessary
că
to
acest
claim
lucru
again the same
a fost
right
inutil
through
atât cadrul
a
normativ,
legal proceeding, as
în
long as
vigoare la moment când am acces în funcție de
as long as the legal framework, when I
îmi
became a
oferea acest
prosecutor,
drept să fiu
granted
asigurat
me
cu
that
locuințe de
right to
serviciu
be
și am
provided with service housing,
Mulțumesc
which
pentru răspunsul
never happened.
detaliat al
Thank you
dumneavoastră
for your detailed
și
answer.
reiterez că Comisia nu
And
pune
I'd like
sub
to
dubiu
reiterate that the
dreptul
Commission does
dumneavoastră
not
de a
doubt your right
apela la justiție, inclusiv
to
la
recourse to
Curtea
legal
Europeană de
action,
Drepturile
including to
Omului. Doar facem
ECHR.
unele clarificări
We just need
pentru
some
a
clarifications
remedia
in
dubiile pe care
order
le
to
are
remedy some of
conform
the
legii 26.
doubts that the
Vă
Commission
mulțumesc.
has under Law 26.
Tot în acest
Thank you. In the
context,
same
aș
context,
vrea să clarific un
I would
lucru.
like to clarify
Conform
one thing.
hotărârii instanței de
According
judecată din
to
2009,
the court decision of
urma să
2009,
primiți
you
un
were
spațiu
supposed to
locativ.
get housing.
Conform legii poliției la acel moment,
According to the law on
spațiul
police,
locativ
at
vă
that
permitea
time,
să
housing
utilizați
allowed
acest
you to
spațiu ca
use
cu drept de proprietate,
it
inclusiv să-l
as
supuneți privatizării.
ownership as well. I mean,
și
it allowed you
să
to
beneficiați
privatize it
de
and
acest spațiu și în afara carierei dumneavoastră.
use that housing
Iar
even
legea
beyond your
cu privire
career.
la procuratură,
While the
aplicabilă
law on
la
prosecution
momentul
service
când
that was
ați devenit
applicable at the time when you became a prosecutor
prevedea anume,
provided,
ați menționat și
as
dumneavoastră,
you
că
mentioned,
procurorii pot beneficia
that
de
prosecutors
spațiu
can
de serviciu,
benefit of
anume
service
care
housing,
dă dreptul de
which
folosință
means
pe
you get the right to
parcursul
use it
îndeplinirii atribuțiilor
while
de
you are
serviciu ca procuror
fulfilling your
în
duties as a
zona în
prosecutors
care
in
își
the
exercită atribuțiile de
area
serviciu.
where you worked.
Comisia are întrebarea.
So, the Commission
Anume
has the
faptul că,
question.
modul de utilizare a spațiilor locative
Was
a
it
fost
the
faptul
way of
că-
using
care
the
generați să nu
housing
refuzați
that
la
made
dreptul
you
dumneavoastră
not to give up
conform,
on your right
conform legii cu privire la poliție
under
și
the
să
law on
accedeți la
police
cu privire la procuratură?
and
Sau au fost
not to choose the one
temei? Vă
from a
mulțumesc.
prosecutor's service point of view, or was there another reason? Thank you. I will try to explain. The rationale was not that. The rationale was that, and it still is,
Deci, lipsă de, sau irațional de a merge în
I
justiție cu
thought it
nouă
was
acțiune
irrational to go
prin care să obțin și o
to
hotărâre în
court with
baza
a
legii
new
cu privire la
action to
procuratură,
obtain
ori atrag
a
atenția
new decision
Comisiei
under
că
the law of
hotărârea aceasta
prosecutor,
nu a
because I'd
fost
like to draw your
executată.
decision.
Știm,
That
cadrul
decision
normativ
has not been
s-a-
enforced.
din
In the
cât
meanwhile,
cunosc,
from
s-a
what I know,
modificat în
the legal
timp
framework has amended,
și,
has been amended
a
over
primit-
time,
a fost
and,
implementată legea cu privire la
the law
locuințe, care de
on
fapt
housing was
definește
implemented,
categorii de
which
locuințe
defines
și condiții
categories
dacă
of
ele sunt
housing
posibile
and
privatizări și care sunt sau care locuințe
conditions
pot fi
for
privatizate.
privatization, actually, what can be
La moment,
privatized.
consider eu
And
că
right
dacă
now, I
în cazul în
believe
care
that in
astăzi sau
case
cel
that
târziu mâine
today,
sau
or
în
let's say
următoarea
tomorrow,
perioadă,
or in the nearest
deși nu
future,
prea cred, ar
even though I
exista
don't believe it's
această
possible,
hotărâre, eu
but
nu
should
văd
the local
cum aș putea
authority
să privatizez, pentru că
enforce that,
scopul meu nu a fost
court decision, I don't see
să
how I could
obțin
privatize,
hotărârea
because
locuinței de la
my
stat
purpose
pentru a
was not
privatiza.
obtaining housing
Deci
from the
scopul meu
state to privatize it.
a fost
My
de a obține
purpose
locuință
was
pentru
to
ca
obtain
în toată
housing
perioada de activitate
so
în sfera
that
publică
during my
să-mi
work for the
permit
public
să fac
sector,
economii
I
pentru
could
a putea
afford to make
achiziționa o locuință
savings in order to
proprii
buy
familiei mele.
my own housing
Eu
for
nu
my
am urmărit
family and
scopul
affected.
de a
I did not have
obține
a purpose
locuință
of
în
obtaining
proprietate, rezidă și trag atenția
property to
Comisiei să
own
lectureze
I would
toate
like to
cererile
ask the
mele
Commission
sau
to read
referințele
all
mele
my
a
requests
judecătorilor
or
la nivel național. Eu
statements
nu am
during
nevoie
the
de
court
să-mi se ofere ceva
proceedings.
în
I
proprietate,
did
dar
not ask,
copiți
I'm
de
stating
serviciu.
that I am not
Pentru ca
asking for
să,
something to be given me into
pot să fac
property, but
economii
only housing, service housing, so that I could
Nu am pretins și
make
nu
savings
pretind
and save
la o
for my
locuință
own. I
în
have never
proprietate.
asked and I do
Mulțumesc
not
frumos.
ask for property to be
Reiterez
owned by me.
faptul că Comisia
I'd like to reiterate
nu
that
examinează
the
situația
Commission
de fapt
is not
acum. Noi
examining
discutăm
the
anumite
merits right now.
situația
We
de
are
fapt și
talking
de iure care exista
about
la
de facto and de
sfârșitul
jure
anului
situation
2010,
existing at the
2011.
end of
Asta pentru
2010-2011.
concretizare.
That
Și
was for
următoarea
clarification.
întrebare
And the
la
next
acest aspect,
question.
Dumneavoastră o parte de timp ați
Part of the
indicat,
time you
o
were
adresă din orașul
mentioning an
Strășeni,
address
strada
in
31
Strășeni,
august, ca
on 31st of
fiind
August
o
Street as
cea cu viză de reședință.
your
Clarificați, vă rog,
official
Comisia,
address.
în ce mod ați utilizat acest
Please explain the
imobile
Commission,
și în
how did
calitate
you
de
use that real
deținut?
estate and what was your capacity when using
O
it?
să explic. Deci nu am utilizat acest
I
imobil.
did
Acolo m-am
not
pus la
use
evidență.
that real
motiv
estate.
că
I got
în acea
registered
perioadă,
there
dacă
because
nu
at that
greșesc,
time, if
am
I'm not
încercat,
mistaken, I tried
să depun acte
to
pentru a
file
redobândi cetățenia română. Și
documentation
trebuia să ai
to
viză
apply
de
for
domiciliu.
reclaiming Romanian citizenship, and
Viză de
that
domiciliu în
required
legătură cu
this
studiile,
official
faptul că am
registered
fost mai întâi la
address. And
deci a fost radiat de la domiciliu
I was deleted from
din
my
localitatea
registration,
Baștină.
was in
Normal,
my
m-am pus la evidență
hometown
pentru
was
că în perioada
deleted then
respectivă activam în
because I was
acel
working
oraș,
in that city at that
Strășeni,
time, Strășeni,
și acea sau
and
proprietarea
the
acelei
owner
locuințe
of
este
that
o rudă
place is
îndepărtată de pe linia mamei și m-am
distant
pus la evidență
relative on
pentru ca
my
să
mother's line,
pot
so
primi
on the
corespondența
side.
pe
So
această adresă,
she
să
registered me on that address so that I could get my correspondence on that address, because at that time
locuiam cu chirii, de fapt și
I
locuiesc cu
was,
chirii până în ziua
well,
de
renting.
astăzi.
I still
Și ca să
do
pot să
rent
primesc
housing right now.
și parmi era și o condiție obligatorie că
So I
trebuie
think
să
it
ai
was a mandatory
domiciliu.
condition. You needed to have a
Dar iarăși
domicile,
nu
like
vreau
official
să
registered address.
speculez, dar asta a
I
fost
wouldn't like to
raționamentul și
speculate, but that was the
mi-am
thinking, the reasoning
registrat-
behind
mi-am
it,
registrat
and
domiciliul pe
I
acea adresă,
registered
atunci.
my domicile
Mulțumesc
on
mult
that
pentru
Strășeni
răspunsul
address.
dumneavoastră.
Thank you
Stimați
for your
colegi,
answer.
acest
Dear
impact
colleagues, do you have any
întrebări?
questions in this regard?
Domnul Tetcu, dacă la acest
Mr.
capitol aveți ceva de
Tetcu,
adăugat
do you have
comisiei
anything
care
to
ați
add
considera
in
că
this
este
regard?
important pentru
To
înlăturarea
say to the
dubiilor
Commission which you
prezentate,
believe it's important to mitigate
suplimentar
without,
sau e ok ce
or
ați declarat până acum?
everything you stated so far is enough?
nu am ce adăuga la acest
Nothing to
subiect.
add.
Nu știu, pe parcurs dacă o să apară,
Maybe you
sunt
will.
gata să răspund.
All the time. I will be ready to
Mulțumim
answer.
mult. Trecem la
Thank you.
următorul
Let's
bloc de
move to the
întrebări, ce
next
se va
group of
referi la
questions,
dreptul de uzufruct
and that is the
asupra
right
unui
of usufruct
matriculat
regarding
în numele
a
soțului
vehicle
dumneavoastră.
registered in the name of your sister.
În perioada anului 2015
During
2015-2022,
2015-2022, you used a vehicle, Mercedes-Benz,
pentru care ați avut drept de uzufruct.
regarding which you had usufruct, right, and the owner of that vehicle, according to the documents,
Sora dumneavoastră,
was your sister.
potrivit serviciul
According
fiscal de stat, sora
To the
dumneavoastră a
information
fost
from the state tax
studentă în acea
service,
perioadă
your
și
sister was a student during that
2015
time
n-a avut
until
venit
2015. She
impozabile.
did not have any taxable
Singurul
income.
venit pe care
The
îl
only
avea era
income
donațiile
she had
primite de la mama
was
de la
received as donations from
familia
the
părinților
mother,
dumneavoastră.
like from your parents' family.
Potrivit informațiilor prezentate,
According to the information,
confirmați acest
well,
moment.
do you confirm that?
Vă
Yes,
mulțumesc.
thank you.
Potrivit informațiilor
According to
prezentate
the
de
information
companiile de
provided by
asigurări,
insurance
în
companies
2015,
since
dumneavoastră
2015,
ați plătit
you
toate
were the
polițele
one
de
that
asigurare
paid
obligatorii,
all
7 la număr, și în
insurance
aceeași perioadă,
policies,
2015
7 of them, and in the same period, 2015-2022, you paid and you ordered 10 external, like green card, car insurance policies to use the car outside the borders of Moldova. The first car insurance policy was taken at your request just a few days after the car was registered in your sister's name. Do you confirm that?
Dacă ei sunt acte,
If that's in the documents, most likely, yes, it was like that. The Commission did not find any insurance policy in the name of your sister as a person who'd order those policies. And since the car was in a poor condition after an accident,
cu implicarea acestui automobil și la acel moment ghidat
And
de
at that
dumneavoastră,
time,
în
it was
anul
you were behind the wheel.
2023,
In 2023,
conform informațiilor
according to the
prezentate
information
Comisiei,
provided to the Commission,
acest vehicul a fost
that
vândut
vehicle
cu suma
was
de
sold
20.000 lei
for 20,000 lei.
și sora la fel a primit
And
despăgubire de
your sister
75.000 de lei.
received compensation
de la o companie
75,000
internațională
lei
de
from
asigurări.
an international
Confirmați
insurance
acest
company.
Da.
Do you confirm that? Yes.
Vă mulțumesc.
Thank you.
Întrebarea este că
The
imediat
question
după
is,
accident,
immediately
dumneavoastră
after the
ați
accident,
închiriat o
you
mașină
rented
Toyota Prius
a,
în perioada
Toyota
26
Prius
aprilie 17 mai
in the period 26 April to 17th of
2022
May
și 19
2022
mai
and
26
19th of
mai
May to 26th of May
2022.
2022.
Confirmați acest
Do you
fapt?
confirm that? Yes.
Pe 9 iunie
On 9th of June 2022,
dumneavoastră ați cumpărat un
you
automobil
purchased
nou,
a
Ford
new
Kuga.
car, Ford Kuga. Yes.
Întrebarea mea constă,
My question is,
imediat după accident,
immediately
sora
after
a
the
procurat
accident,
un alt automobil
did you
sau a
assist
închiriat
buy
alt
any other
automobil?
car or rent any other car?
Deci, îi explic.
I'd
Sora
like to
nu a
explain.
achiziționat
My
niciun
sister
automobil.
did not buy any
Sora
car. My sister
continuă și până în prezent să
continues
utilizeze
to this
automobilul
day to
fratelui.
use my brother's car.
Deci banii ea i-a încasat
She
și
obtained the
ea,
money,
dacă comisia a observat, ea a
and the
achiziționat
Commission
un
may have
apartament
noticed she purchased an
de acum
apartment
locuiește,
where she's living now.
în variantă albă, o
It was
companie de
in white walls
construcții și
condition
banii
from
care i-a
a
obținut
construction company,
din
and the money she
despăgubiri și
received
probabil și
from that
din
compensation
acea vânzare
from that
din 2000, cât spuneți dumneavoastră, în
sale in
2023, că exact n-am
2023 or
nu cunosc.
whatever. I did not take
Ea
part
a
in that. I
utilizat
don't know
din
exactly when it was.
cuvintele ei
But
la
from her
achiziționarea
words,
de material de
she
construcții
used
și
that money
mobilier pentru
to
a-și
purchase construction
remodela
materials and
apartamentul.
furniture
Mulțumesc
for
pentru
her
răspunsul
apartment.
detaliat.
Thank you for your detailed answer.
Cum comentați dumneavoastră faptul că toate polițele de
What do you
asigurare
have to
asupra
say
acestui
about the fact that
automobil
all
Mercedes-Benz
insurance policies
au
regarding the
fost,
Mercedes-Benz
perfectate pe
were
numele dumneavoastră, adică și
in your name
achiziționate de
and
dumneavoastră?
were purchased by you?
Deci explic în felul următor. Deci că acest
Well, I'd like to explain the following. This
într-adevăr, a
car,
fost, sau asigurarea și revizia tehnică a fost perfectată de către
indeed,
mine. Însă din
insurance
banii
and technical
surorii,
inspection was done by me,
primul
partly
an
from
sau doi,
my
deci
sister's
nu
money
exact
for
mi-aduc
1 year or
aminte.
2. I don't remember
Cu siguranță nu
exactly.
primul an, deoarece
Certainly
nu
not
mă
the
amintesc,
first year because I don't remember
de la
that.
achiziții. Deci eu mergeam
I was
și
going
perfectam
and
aceste acte.
obtaining all that
Asigurarea se făcea
documentation.
pe persoane
Insurance was
nelimitate,
done
fiindcă
on
acest
unlimited
automobil nu mi-a
number of people
aparținut
because that car did not
și
belong
era
to me,
utilizat
and it
ocazional
was
de către
used
mine și
occasionally
familia
by
mea,
me and my family,
cu permisiunea surorii.
and with my sister's permission.
Și acest lucru l-am făcut fiindcă
I did
ea
that
era studentă, sora.
because my
Banii au
sister
fost
was a
achiziționați,
student.
banii și achiziționați, automobilul au fost
The
achiziționat
money was
din
purchased
banii
from
mamei,
my
care
mother's
a
money.
fost făcut transfer și ea
She made the
pleca și
transfer
efectuat,
and she
probabil,
went and
n-am
she paid.
participat în acea
I was
zi
not
la achiziția
there
automobilului.
on that day. I did not take part
Aceasta a
in
fost fără
the
mine
purchase
și
of the car.
vânzarea la fel fără mine.
And it was without
Da, am
me, and the
utilizat
sale of
acest
the car without
automobil
me
și
as well.
făceam
But
eu
I used
pentru
that
că,
car, and
fratele pe timp ea a fost și la pistihotare, în
She was
principal
also
eu
part of
eram în Chișinău, era
time abroad.
student,
She was.
ea
I
pleca
was
la
in Chișinău.
țară, eu
She
ajutam,
was a student.
ea îmi dădea
She was
automobilul,
going to
eu aveam
the
copil mic,
countryside.
în
She would
2019
giving me the
deci,
car. I had small
și îmi
child
oferea
born in 2011, so
ocazional
she
să
was
utilizez acest
sometimes,
automobil,
occasionally giving me the possibility to use the car.
Asigurarea carte verde, probabil că am fost. Am
But with respect to the
inclusiv și cu
green
ea,
card,
dacă
because
s-a
I also
verificat
traveled abroad with
frontiera,
her. If you check
asta a fost, plecam
the
la
records of the
Cernăuți,
border police, we would
am
go to
plecat,
Cernăuți, Cernivtsi.
pentru a
We
face
went
shopping.
to do some
În
shopping.
unele situații am fost la
In some
Bavistan,
cases, we were
lăcașuri
visiting
sfinte, și
some
ea
monasteries.
mergea, dar banii plătea.
So she was going as
plătea
well,
și
but
ea la, sau
it was
achita
for
și el la alimentare.
me paying.
Bine,
She was paying
în
to
Ucraina
price of
acolo
fuel, for
carte
instance, in
verde
Ukraine.
cost minim, simbolic,
The
dacă
green
se
card
recunoaște. Dar și în
costs very
România,
little,
când am
but in
fost,
Romania
plecam
as
pentru
well,
că dacă
because
o să observi comisia, eu
the
plecam
Commission
pentru a
may
depune acte,
notice
fiindcă în
that I
proces
was
eram
going there
dat
to
să
file
dobândesc
documentation
cetățenia
because
și
I
de
was
fiecare dată era nevoie să
reclaiming
plec
my
eu.
Romanian
Pentru mine
citizenship,
nimeni
so
nu
I
plec eu
always needed to go
singur,
there. No one was
plecam
doing it
și depuneam acele acte
instead of
și
me, so I was
obțineam
going
și
there,
obțineam
filing gathering documents, obtaining everything. So in the end, I did obtain Romanian citizenship.
În acest context,
Thank
cum
you for your
ați aprecia dumneavoastră, luând în
answer.
considerație că spuneți că part-time
In
ați
this
utilizat acest,
context, you said you were using
acest automobil,
this car part-time.
cum ar putea să-l exprimăm
Then
în perioada unui
How
an?
could we express it, let's say,
Câte luni
within 1
ați
year?
însumat dumneavoastră, e ca știind
How many months altogether
era
would you
de
use it?
3
I
ori
mean,
pe
knowing that,
săptămână,
was it like
o
3
dată pe
times a week,
săptămână,
1
o dată
time
în
a
jumătate de
week,
an,
once
o
in
dată
6
pe lună?
months, or once a month?
Dumneavoastră mai bine cunoașteți
You know that
strategia
better.
aceasta pentru ca comisia să aibă o claritate
So that the
despre
Commission would
faptul
have some
cum
clarity
era
about
utilizat de dumneavoastră acest
how did
automobil.
you use that car.
Se explic. Automobilul acel automobil Mercedes din
That
anul
car, the
2002,
Mercedes,
el era folosit
2002,
ocazional de
was
mine.
used
Mai exact,
occasionally
erau
by
perioade
me.
când
Namely, there were
luni
periods
întregi
of
nu-l
time
foloseam
when
eu, îl folosea
I
ea.
wouldn't use it for months.
Erau momente când o
Only she
săptămână
was using it.
integral,
Sometimes
2
it would
săptămâni
be me
integral
using it
foloseam
for
ea.
1 week
Sau
or 2
weekend îi
weeks.
dădeam automobilul, ea
Or on the weekend, she was getting the car. and she-
Comisia în
The Commission may notice in 2010,
în 2010 a decedat tatăl.
my father died.
Deci
And
mama în acea perioadă
my
se afla la
mother
muncă
at
peste
that
hotare.
time was working abroad.
La țară, gospodăria avea nevoie
And
de
the household
grijă,
in the countryside
de-
needed care
Deci acolo sunt terenuri, sunt
because there
este
are land
gospodărie.
plots,
Respectiv,
a household.
eu fiind
So,
fratele mai mare,
I was the older brother.
în zile de weekend,
On the weekends,
deci, ea împreună cu mine s-au separat, pleca
she,
și avea
together with
grijă
me,
de
would go there
toate
and take care of
de pe lângă casă.
everything around the house.
Vă zic exact ca să comune
Well,
comisiei cât,
to say
deci mai mult de o
exactly
lună
how
asta,
much
vă zic cu
that-
siguranță, a
certainly that
fost
was more than 1
utilizat, nu a fost, vă afirm responsabil, că nu a fost
I
utilizat
declared my
automobilul
responsibility with the car wasn't
jumătate de an
used
în continuu sau un an
like
în
half a year
continuu. Nu, deci
continuously
a
or 1
fost
year
utilizat
continuously. No.
ocazional,
It
dar
was
erau
used
momente când și o
occasionally,
săptămână
but
și o
there were
săptămână jumătate
times when
utilizam
it
acest
was,
automobil.
I was using it
Colegii
for
mei
1 week or 1
care am
week and a half.
lucrat,
My colleagues with whom I
deci,
worked,
deci, bine, ei cunosc foarte bine cum eu
they
ce
know
făceam
very
eu.
well what I was
Mă
doing.
rog, colegii mei de serviciu, dar eu veneam când la rutieră, în
Sometimes
Strășeni,
I was
Chișinău
taking the
sau-
bus, Strășeni,
bine,
Chișinău,
era moment,
commuting.
dar mașina în principal, noi am,
But
deci am
mainly,
convenit cu ea,
I agreed
nu mi-am
with
amintit
her
acel
from
moment,
what I remember at that
călătoria
time.
din țară sau conduce unități de transport, trebuia să ai
Driving cars in the
hotărârea sau
country
mandatul,
meant you
pentru că
needed
la
to
acel
have
moment,
power
pare
of
mi-e, în
attorney.
2015 se sancționa
Or
acest
and
lucru.
because in
Și
2015
ca să
it
pleci
was
peste hotare la fel, de
punishable,
fiecare dată
and for
trebuie să
her
faci
to,
procură. Și
you know,
ea,
to leave
eu
the
spus,
country,
ok,
you needed
hai,
power of
mai
attorney
bine
as well.
un comandat.
And
Și
she said,
am
okay,
făcut
let's have it
acest
on
automobil în
bailment.
fiecare an,
And we
pentru
did
că
that, and I declared that car
să nu
every
apară
year in
suspiciuni că
order
eu aș
to
conduce
avoid
într-un
any
transport și
suspicion that I'm
dar nu le
driving
declar.
some
Dar
vehicles
evident,
that I don't
acest
declare.
automobil nu mi-a
But
aparținut,
that
n-am
car did
contribuit
not
la
belong to
achiziția
me,
lui
I did not
și n-am
contribute to
contribuit
buying it,
la
I did not
realizarea lui
contribute
și
to
n-am
selling
beneficiat
it.
din
And I
valoarea lui.
well, I benefited somehow of it, of its value. I used it, my family in a way, because I would drive my child when needed,
medic sau...
let's say, to the doctor.
Deci, prea de timp soția mea când era
Sometime
cu copilul,
my
pleca la țară.
wife, when she was on childcare leave, should go to the countryside.
11 prea de timp
I
am
think in
activat la
2011 I
Călăraș,
worked in
ca să observe
Călăraș for
comisia
some time.
din
The
decembrie
commission can
până în
see that
septembrie.
since
Și
December
era la țară în acea
to September.
perioadă.
And she was in the countryside at that
Și-
time.
Deci eu plecam la ea la țară, veneam, deci
So I would drive
cam asta a
To
fost.
the country and coming back
Deci
That was it.
nu mi-a aparținut acest automobil. Mine și
did
prima
not
comisie
belong.
în baza legii.
The
65
first
la fel m-a
commission and the law
întrebat și exprim
65
asumat
also
și
asked me,
nu am ce
and
ascunde.
I have
Dar
nothing to
l-am folosit,
hide, and
dar
I
el-
declare I used
el-
that car.
Eu când aveam nevoie, i-am
when I needed it,
mi-a acorda
she
acest
was
automobil. Ea atunci
giving
a
the
lucrat
car
prea
to
timp,
me,
o locuit cu
because
mine.
she lived
Când mi-a
at
ajutat
my
copilul,
place for a period of
ea
time because
a
she was
fost și la
helping out with the
Cămin,
child. She also lived in the student dormitory
Căminul studențesc cu ea făcea studii
where
la
she
acel
was
moment.
studying at that time.
Asta e realitatea.
That's the reality.
Vă mulțumesc pentru răspunsul dumneavoastră.
Thank you for your
O
answer.
întrebare de concretizare.
A clarification
Dumneavoastră
question.
ați participat la
Did you take
reparația,
part
întreținerea
in
acestui
repairing,
automobil
maintenance of that
financiar?
car?
Deci,
Financially, did you contribute?
dacă erau momente de pană sau am
Well,
mai
if
plătit
it was
amenzi atunci când au
like, if
fost
there were
încălcări
Fines,
uh,
in case of violations, I did
din banii
pay
personali, pare
from
mi
my
se...
own. But from my own
de zic, un
money,
an, doi,
Concretizare,
asigurare.
One year or two,
schimbul
the
lubrifiante,
insurance.
schimb de-
No, for
de-
instance, to
Deci, da.
replace the oil, change the tires, engine repair, some
de fiecare
body
eu
repairs.
făceam lucrările astea odată.
I
a
was
făcut,
doing
aceste
that.
lucrări le-a realizat, sau
Well,
nu că realizat,
no.
dar
These works
asigurat
were
realizarea lor de către frate
done
și
by
el
my
lua automobilul
brother
acesta și
because he
schimba.
was also getting his
Sora
car
a
and
fost
he was
în câteva cazuri.
in some cases
și eu
my
am fost
sister
și
did that,
am
I also
schimbat,
paid or replaced things and
toate acestea pentru a întreține tehnica automobilului.
to ensure the technical maintenance of the car.
Pentru că eu îl foloseam
I was using, well, it was proper for me to pay since I was using it, but not always. I was not paying
era ei și
as long as the car was hers.
și e
And
domnișoară la acel moment era.
well,
Deci
she
nu putea
was
ea să plece, eu
young
ca
lady at
frate,
that time.
bărbat care
It wasn't like she should have gone there. I was a man, older brother, so I did not have a car at that period of time. I did not own a car at that time, but for me,
era greu.
well, for her it was difficult as a young lady to handle those kind of things.
Ați achitat când
Well,
lubrifiantele
bonus
costă,
knows you paid because oils
dar
cost,
ele
Pare mi
costă,
să,
oricum.
and the parts cost as
pare mi s-a
well.
dat că nu ajungea
But I
imediat
think that
suma,
when she didn't have
anumită
enough, she gave me
sumă
some
ne
money,
ajungea, dar asta am adăugat
and then I've added
la
something to
suma de
that
bani,
because
dar
that wasn't
foarte
enough. I've
puțin.
added a little bit to that amount of money, but very, very little. Thank you for your answer.
Întrebarea următoare,
In my
în
next question,
perioada procurării acesta,
When
automobil
this
vorbim
car
de
was
anul
bought,
2015,
speaking of the year
dacă vă amintiți,
2015,
unde locuia
if
sora
you remember,
dumneavoastră
do you remember where was your sister
ca
living?
student? Noi vorbim în
Being a
timpul
student,
studenției
When she was a student, where was she staying?
în Chișinău, am vedea.
In Chișinău. The microphone is not on.
Noi vorbim că locuia în municipiul Chișinău.
So she was living in Chișinău, thank you.
Dar dumneavoastră activați în
And you
la
were
Strășeni.
working in Strășeni. He's not speaking in the microphone, and he's not listening to our comments because he doesn't have the headset.
Scuze, da, deci eu sora în acea perioadă
So at that
locuia
time,
în cămin,
My sister was staying in a student's dormitory.
căminul colegiului
It
medicină.
was the dormitory of the College of Medicine.
Sau era la practică, nu
And
mi-aduc
she was
aminte, dar am mers la
either on her
practică, la
internship,
stagiere.
I think she was
Dar
an
eu
intern at
activam
that time.
în Strășeni. Nu, în Strășeni.
And I was working in Strășeni.
Da, în
And was
Strășeni.
she
A
in
fost
Strășeni?
repartizat
Yes,
la
she was
practica
distributed
Centrul de Sănătate
to
Publică
the
din
Public Health
centrul,
Center
da,
or
din orașul Strășeni.
health
Și
facility
atunci
in
vreau
the
să
town of
și eu
Strășeni.
activam
And in that
în
period of time, I too was
orașul
working
Contextul
there
este
in
și a fost
Strășeni.
întrebare
And
deoarece
this is the
locuind în
context in which I'm
Chișinău,
asking
care
this,
a fost
because, well,
logica că
if she
banii
would have stayed in
transmiși
Chișinău, I was wondering about the logic for the money sent by your mother that were reported for the purchase of that apartment. How were they sent? Was the money sent to Strășeni, not Chișinău? So I wondered if she was working there, if she was based there. Now that's where the question came
Luând în
from.
considerație
Now, considering that, or
toate aspectele
taking into account
pe
all of the
l-ați
aspects
utilizat
and
destul
that
de des
you've
acest
used
automobile,
that car
l-ați
quite
aplicat
often,
spătare cu
you
el în
drove it
majoritatea
abroad.
județelor, adică
Most of the
vorbim
times it
despre
was you
acele cărți de
driving it,
asigurări
and the green
externe,
cards and
despre faptul că ați participat
the car
la-
insurance, the
la
external ones they
reparația
mean, and
automobilului.
you've contributed to the repairs, to fixing the
Dumneavoastră
car.
ca procuror, pentru
To you as a
observator
prosecutor,
independent,
if
pentru
an independent
comisie,
observer looked at it, not
în
even the commission, but
considerație,
if an independent
pentru
observer
observator,
looked at
ar
it,
putea fi
what
tratat
do you
acest
think? Could
uz ca
this,
fiind un beneficiar
could
efectiv al
using
acestui
this
bun sau nu?
car
Care
be
este
regarded
poziția
as
dumneavoastră?
used by a beneficial owner, and what is your view regarding this?
După mine, acest lucru n-ar
In
trebui
my
să fie
opinion,
tratat ca
this
o-
shouldn't
un
come
dubiu în raport cu persoana mea
across
în care
like doubts about
fi fost
myself,
eu cel beneficiar
and that I was the beneficial
încerc să
owner of
explic
the asset, and I will
comisiei de
try to explain my reasoning to the commission.
Acest automobil,
This
rudele,
car
prietenii,
And the
cunoscuții,
relatives,
cunosc
the
acest automobil,
family,
nu
the
aparține mie.
acquaintances, they
Și era
know that it
folosit,
doesn't belong
conducea
to
în
me,
traseu, în
and
țară, sora, fratele.
it
Cu
was
același
either my
succes,
brother or sister
putem
driving it
spune și
around.
fratele
And in
meu,
the same way,
care
you
a
could also
condus
say that my
acest
brother,
automobil
who's been
vreo
driving that car
jumătate de
too
an în
for about
continuu,
half a year,
dacă nu greșesc.
uninterruptedly,
La
if
fel a
I'm not
fost și el
mistaken,
beneficiar.
he too was a beneficiary then, or an owner, a beneficial owner.
Nu știu, eu consider că am
I
procedat corect
think
pentru că am
that I
declarat
did things right
ca fiind
because
un
I
bun
reported
care l-am
it. I
folosit
reported
și
it as an
nu neg
asset that
acest
I've
fapt,
used, and
dar
I do not deny
nu
this.
am, nu ne
However,
aparțin dreptate
It
și nici
did
n-am
not, it does
contribuit la
not belong, did
achiziționarea
not belong
lui.
to me, and I did
Măcar
not
în
contribute to
procesul
buying
de
it.
achiziționare și de
As far as
acest
the
automobil,
procurement
și
is
în procesul de
concerned, and identifying
vânzare
this
sau
car, and
înstrăinare.
the
Eu,
sale of this car,
acest accident care am
after
văzut,
the car,
am fost
the
implicat,
accident that I
corect?
was in,
Ea în general
that I
a avut
was
relații între noi
part
sau
of, then the our relationship after that was a little bit affected. And she said, well, thank you, you have a young child. So well, anyway, things got sorted out, she took the money. And given that now she has money to spend for the apartment, she doesn't feel like that. I mean, the car, the Hyundai, the car of the brother, she just accepted it and moved on. Thank you. Are there any other questions from other members of the Commission?
I have one or two questions. Mr. Tetcu, it's still not clear to me. No, let me start first. Are you close to your sister, or were you close to your sister?
Yes. Yes, she's my sister. We have a good relationship. So we haven't. I mean, our relationship was proper as between siblings, a brother and a sister.
So did she talk to you about buying this car?
No, she did not talk to me about buying that car.
For me, that's hard to follow because this was a big decision for her. There's a lot of money involved. Did you ask her later, why did you not talk to me about this car?
Let me explain. When the former vetting commission addressed this, I talked to my sister about how the procurement of that car happened. So I've asked about the details, when, where it happened. Though I knew that she was helped with that by my brother buying the car. So the brother is the person who helped her with buying that car at that time, in those days, at that time when she bought it. I was not with her, I was not with them when they were buying the car. And about the fact that my sister, I'm not sure if this comes across as believable or not, but I went to the countryside to where I was born, and I found out that she bought a car when I don't know, I think I was going quite often to the countryside, as the Commission has already noticed, too, over the weekends, for instance, helping out. I was doing certain things for myself, for the family, getting some produce, and that's when I found out, that's when I saw for the first time the car, the Mercedes. It was in the yard of my parents' house.
That's a surprise. Did you find out later, because she brought it without telling you, did she tell you at one stage why she needed a car?
Well, I will explain. She needed a car because she was going to use it for. Well, in the countryside there is land, and if you look at it, this car is like a universal car. I mean, you can carry stuff with it. You can load stuff there, and you can bring stuff over from the field, from the farmland. You can bring some grains, produce, carry things around. So it was quite spacious, quite big for carrying things, and that's what it was bought for.
But she lived in Chisinau at that time.
Yes, but she too was taking care of the parents' household of that place.
I think you told us before that this was something that you did together. Is that correct?
Precisely. I was helping her out, but I wasn't there all at the time. I didn't have time enough for that. And sometimes I would work on weekends too, but when I had the possibility as a man to go to the countryside to help her out, I would do that. I mean, a young woman, I don't want to sound discriminatory, but she won't be able to do a lot of things. And she was also a student at the college. And payments had to be made at the time after the father passed away. there in the countryside there was poultry, livestock to take care of. So one had to put some time into that. And we've had relatives who have been helping us out. And over the week they were taking care of the household, the livestock. And over the weekend my sister would go there and she was taking care of that place, and I too would go there every now and then, but not always. Should go there more often. She was a student from Monday through Friday, and I would sometimes work at my workplace over Sundays and Saturdays.
I'm going to brood on that a little bit. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody else regarding this issue? Well, we'll be moving on to the next group of questions, and these questions will have to do with the failure to report income from donations and international transfers from 2012 through 2014, total value 11,450 euros and $2,090, which would be except for the 37,849 lei that was reported for 2014. So I would like to make a correction at the beginning. In 2023, having looked into your candidacy as under Law 65, for those years you've submitted additional declarations, and over there you've included that. Do you agree with this? Do you confirm this? Yes. Now, my first question is regarding that the 2023 declarations that you submitted for 2012, 2013, 2014, you submitted the corrected declarations. Was this due to the fact that you were subject to the evaluation under the Law 65 as a candidate for the position of member of the Supreme Court of Justice? Was that the reason? No, those additions, those corrections, well, in 2023, this has happened because of the following reasons. First, I found out for the first time when the Commission raised the issue, I found out that I've had donations to myself, to my wife, by people who are known to have made those donations for those years. So I've had a discussion at home, and I found out, as I've already explained to the previous Commission, and I would like to reiterate now, that I had no knowledge of all of them. I did not know of all the donations received from parents, and not only from parents. Therefore, given that, to me, that was shocking. I should say, maybe shock is too strong a word, but to clarify and to figure things out, I had a consultation with the NIA representatives regarding this. Those declarations are for 2012 to 2014. They have been scanned. You can't just make the updates to them just like that. So, to report those donations, I filed those declarations in 2023, but it's not in 2023 that I filed them. I did not file them in 2023 only to show the Vetting Commission that, look, or I did not try to have anything, or to try to mitigate, or to make it look nice in front of the Commission, or to make those violations look not so bad. I do think that I violated the law, because the law in 2012, 13, 14, the law was quite clear about reporting donations and transfers from parents. So I think that not having declared that, though, I think this shouldn't incite serious doubts for an objective for an objective observer in a way that would lead to me failing the evaluation through the lens of Article 8 of the Law 26, because in the very beginning I had already admitted to have made that mistake. And that was out of not knowing that those donations were received. One of the reasons is that I didn't know that not all of the documentation was kept till the end of the year to know about those donations. There's some donations that I had no knowledge about at all. I could provide thorough detail for every amount. But having realized it, and if the Commission notices, I've later, throughout the year, I've reported donations that were not even above now in the law, given the law 133, they were not above the 10 average salaries per the national economy, but it decided to report them because that's what the new representative said. So would you please report that, because later it's there, it was accepted. And those omissions, those are indeed omissions on my behalf, the fact that I haven't reported it back then. But also, given that I didn't know precisely what is the right way to fill out the declarations, even 2014 declaration, if the Commission noticed, for instance, there is, I will try to be as precise as I can. In the 2013 declaration, page 2, you can notice that at that time I reported donations, a part of the donations, not all of them. And there's another, it was in a chapter that is different what I was supposed to report that, which only speaks of the fact that I did not do it properly, but not out of ill faith, but out of not knowing how to do it right. And there weren't that many instructions back then, so it was practically up to each and every one of us on the basis of their knowledge or possibility to figure things out. That's how we were filling the declaration out and reporting income and all that. Thank you. Yet, in the declarations, the corrected one, the updated declarations that you filed in 2023, all of the amounts that you reported for 2012, 13, 14, they're all reported as donations. Later, in the written communication with the Commission too, you've actually stated that your family wasn't the beneficiary of the entire amount. For instance, the 6,000 euros that went to your wife, but you've actually stated that the actual beneficiary of that amount was somebody else. Can you provide some explanation regarding this? My explanation is the following. So, speaking of the 6,000 euros, the person who made the transfer is the brother of my wife. At that time, if the Commission noticed, he was working in Israel. He was abroad working in Israel. And my wife, as his sister, she received the money. The money was transferred to her, but then she handed the money over to him when he returned. Because at that time, if I'm not mistaken, she was working in the banking system, but I am not certain whether that happened specifically in that particular month when the transfer was made. But until 2013, she has been working for the bank. That is certain, and the Commission knows what bank I'm speaking of. And as for the rest, if you allow me to further elaborate regarding the 2,815 euros, that is that person, out of discussions with my wife, because we've had a very heated discussion about it when the first Commission addressed this issue and raised this issue with me, this transfer, to ask how was it possible for her to have received that money and not tell me anything, and how was it possible that I should find out for the first time now. And she told me, and she continues to support that as she was a new employee in a new company, the owner of that company asked her to get the transfer in her name because he was not there, and so he couldn't. So he got the money. The money did not even go to his house, but the money was transferred At the office, the money was handed over to the owner of the business, to the manager of that business. So she's like an intermediary. We're not, maybe there's, I mean, she was the intermediary, so to speak. Yes, but she was not the beneficial owner, it was not her, neither myself. And in this context, I have another question. Since you did report it in the declarations you filed in 2023, and it was you specifically the one who introduced this comment as donation, that is. And given what you've previously stated, what you have stated, that until 2016 you didn't know about how to, but since 2016 onwards you've looked over the law, so how could you explain it in 2023, given that you also had the documents from the Vetting Commission that apply the Law 65 and all the information from the family, you yet nevertheless introduced some incorrect information regarding the purpose. It was not a donation, but it was an intermediary task. I shall explain. So all the corrected 2023 declarations, those that were filed in 2023, I filled them out with the support of the near representative. So I've addressed this issue of this transfer, not only this one, but even the 6,000 euros transfer. I've raised it too. Why should I report it as a donation if it wasn't my family that was the beneficiary at the end of the day? And they said, it doesn't matter. It was in your name. It was to your name that this transfer came. So it came to you. You have to report it. Because this discussion, this dispute, many of our colleagues, I don't know, for instance, there were parents abroad, and they would send $100 or 100 euros to pay utilities in the countryside. So you wouldn't actually be using that, but you would pay that. So you'd anyway report it because it was coming to you or to members of your family. It was your name or the name of your family members. And the near representative, I did put it down who I talked to and the phone number that I called. But I was told that regardless of whether you were the actual beneficiary of that amount or not, you have to report that as a donation, because if you report it under a different chapter, there is no other place for you to report it. And for me to report this as this transfer, well, I had to put it somewhere. And I have addressed this matter with a near representative over the phone. I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I would be talking to the commission. And then when I found out about this issue, I thought, well, my wife confirmed receiving that amount. She remembered that happened. But she said she did not even imagine, she couldn't have even thought that at some point some issues would emerge because of that transfer. This is everything that I can tell you so far. Thank you. And just a question of clarification regarding your communication with the near representative. So do you have the data, the name, there's a phone number, the hotline. There's the hotline that I called. Thank you. I'll have to look this up in the information that I've shared with the first commission regarding the date and the phone number that I called. If you could share with us this information, phone number that you called, date on which that phone call happened via email. Now, with regards to this, are there any other questions from the other members of the commission?
Yes. Who is Ilya Chistel?
That is my mother-in-law.
And who is Nikolai Chistel?
That is the brother of my wife. He's my brother-in-law.
And who is Babish Mitsopoulos?
Explic.
That person, BM, I have never seen that person, my wife hasn't seen that person in the face ever, never talked to that person by phone. This is the person from whom my wife received the transfer that she, in her turn, handed over to the owner of that business. And to provide further details, to elaborate, there are other people involved, to make it absolutely clear. The other
further details on Mitsopoulos, but that's the only person in that category. So the explanation that you gave us that the 2,815 euro donation was simply your wife at work doing a favor to somebody would not apply to the donations from her parents, would it?
Efectiv, soția și eu n-am beneficiat de
I
acești
and my wife
nici
did
nu
not actually benefit
am văzut.
from
Eu
that
ce-o
money. I
femeie
haven't
le-am
even
văzut, dar ea
seen it at all. I
i-a
haven't.
dus.
It's not my question.
Atunci vă rog să repetați.
Please repeat the question.
You kind of dodged the question, so I think your answer suffices for my purposes.
Deci nu.
I have no further questions.
Cer scuze. Trecem la următorul grup din întrebări. Se referă la
Let's move on to the next group of questions, and it has to do with that difference between income and expenses for 2021,
și anume în urma
and
calculelor
specifically following the calculations of the Commission.
2021.
In 2021, you and your family
Ați avut un
have
total
received
de
a total income of
495.910 lei,
495,910 lei, and your expenses 639,185
lei.
lei. And the difference is a negative one. There's a negative balance of 143,275 lei. I would like to clarify from the very beginning that in these calculations, we did not include the income that you stated in the provider shared with us in the third round of questions and answers, the 60,000 Moldovan lei, that is, that you claim that you've received when an older loan was paid back to you from a person you're in a godparent relationship with. So, do you agree with, or do you insist on this amount you've received from that relative? I confirm that this indeed has happened in reality. So, if we include this in the calculation, in our formula, then it turns out that the total income would be 55,000, and then we'd have the same expenses, and the negative balance would be 83,275 lei. Would you agree with this? I do not confirm this. And if the Commission allows me, I will try to explain why I disagree with this. So, I appreciate that the current Commission, when it comes to using a credit card from MAIB, one that I have taken in 2016, yes, that was a credit card, and you'd put money on that and you'd use it. It was a revolving card. Well, that's how we were using it. And your Commission has paid attention to incoming, to the income flow, that I was using money from that credit card. The previous Commission didn't address it in the same way. Mr. Tetcu, although certain procedures might appear similar, but the Commission would like to reiterate that we carry out our evaluation under Law 26, which is different compared to that other law, though some doubts might be the same, but we have our own rules of procedure, so all the Commission act independently. Thank you. So let's just stay focused on what is at issue now. Now, I'll go back to my answer then. In the first round of questions, I've shared with the Commission a certificate, an explanatory certificate from MAIB, a MAIB branch from Strășeni. And in that certificate, for 3 years, that certificate explains what the account activity was and how much was put on the account and how much was cashed out. And in that explanatory certificate, though, in my explanations previously for the previous Commission, because they are connected, I think I was very consistent in everything that I've said. That was what actually happened. In that 5-year declaration, I've stated 126,000, and that was a mistaken amount. I had a discussion with the bank clerk, but that is just the account activity. That's not account activity. The 126,000 that you refer to, that is the amount that was put on the credit account for a year. So that is a total amount of money that was supplemented by you in cash. You cashed that in by your wife at an ATM and from your salary card. So that is the total amount that was put on that account over the year 2021. So that is the flow. The flow is incoming and outgoing. Outgoing funds, that's something else. It couldn't have. I would like to go back to that certificate that I've submitted at the first round of questions, and then in the third round of questions too, I've shared it. And it's very clear that over 2021, what was not used or maybe used, 56,900 something lei. So it's not 126,000 as the Commission has claimed when it comes to reimbursements using the MAIB card in terms of expenses in that year. The amount was not 126,000 but 56,964. Are you speaking about the previous Commission? No, this Commission. In the first round of questions, I submitted that. But in this regard, we have a very simple explanation. This is the flow, your account activity, the flow of your funds on this account. In total, the amount that was put on the card. So that was 126,000 lei that went on that card. And so that is incoming, that is like income. And then you've used your card, you've cashed things out, money out, you've paid for services, 69,493 lei. And for the credit reimbursement of the total amount of 160,000, there's 95,000. So in row 3, where you see income, you can see that the MAIB credit card was used, so that is as income, not expenses, so that's why we included it like that, if you pay attention, and we think that that corresponds with the information in your certificate, unless you have a different opinion.
În opinia mea, deci nu este corect reținută suma de 126.000 la rubrica cheltuieli, dar 56.964 lei. Asta e opinia mea și se rezultă dintr-un act oficial al băncii. Pentru că eu nu puteam să introduc, să utilizez 69.000 și să cheltui 126.
And spend 126.
Pentru că au rămas bani pe cont
Because money is in the account at the end of the year.
Deci la intrarea în an și ieșirea în an pe contul cardului
beginning of the year and end of the year on that credit card, there was money available. Can I explain to you? Yes. During 2021, in order to supplement the credit card, 126,457 they were used, and that consisted of automatic reimburse, because that's how your card is set, from your salary account in the amount of 51,656 lei. It was from your, from the 30th of December 2021, 52,100 lei in cash, and deposit through the ATM during the year in an amount of 22,700. These are the money coming from your family's income that was spent to top up this account. At the same time, during that year, you withdrew cash that we calculate as income for you in an amount of 30,450 lei. You made purchases in an amount of 21,114 lei, which is also an income for you. We put it within those 60,000. And if we look at the difference between the amount you withdrew in cash and payments you made, if we deduct it from the 162,000, we get to your final amount of 59,000 that were meant to cover the principal of credit, interest and penalties. Make a calculation and go back to that. We didn't consider only 126,000. We put under your income as well the cash 30,450 and also 21,114 lei when you use the card to buy something. So, on the negative balance side, well, what is left on negative balance? 162 minus this amount, you see the amount from your certificate, 56,927 lei. You said that the negative balance would be how much if that 60,000 as reimbursement is accepted, there would be how big of a negative amount? Just 1 second. The negative balance, so without that debt, it would be 143,000 something lei. And if we put your income side this amount, then we have 143 minus 60,000. It's 83,275 lei negative balance at the end of the year. If I may, I am still stating my position that I did not spend all 126,457 lei. At the same time, with respect to this consumption expenditure for population, I don't understand. I try to understand, but I can't understand why the Commission holds as expenses CEP and not the subsistence expenses under which the subject of evaluation wouldn't have survived. So this amount of 162, 163 lei that is held by the Commission in the table under in the field of expenses, I think it's very unlikely that that was the amount, that it was total expenses of my family, consumption expenses of my family. I couldn't have reached that value. I don't know, maybe if the Commission saw the bank statements, they could see what were the expenses and the value, the amounts of the expenses. But I am far from the idea that 162,163 lei was spent. For various reasons, I can elaborate, even though I think I communicated that already. Yes, you did inform us about that. We will go back to that later. But even without including the CEP that you are challenging now, having your calculation, the Commission calculated your cash flow used by you, both at the beginning of the year, what you used during the year, what like incoming during the year, and reached the following calculation. You had savings at the beginning of the year 109,075, as according to your declarations. Then withdrawals from your salary account 174,120 lei, withdrawals from the credit card from MAIB 30,450. Donations 3,000 lei, CNAS allowance 8,007 lei, salaries wife net 19,054 lei.
Returnarea, dacă punem returnarea datorii de la cumătul dumneavoastră în sumă de 60.
Well, they reimbursed that from your relative.
Tot numerarul de care l-ați primit în anul.
60,000 lei, and that was the cash that you received, and the total amount would be 409,200 lei. Also, in 2021, you had cash expenses, namely
pe cardul salarial al dumneavoastră.
Topping up your salary card, 13,100 lei.
Depuneri pe cardul de credit.
Topping up a credit card,
În sumă totală de
total amount of
74,800.
52,100 was your wife, and the rest was cashed through the ATM.
În total 74.000.
That is 74,800 in
Totodată
total.
ați avut cheltuieli
You also
pentru
had
închirierea
expenses
locuinței,
for
care ați
housing,
declarat că ați
rent.
făcut-o în
You said you're paying in cash. That's 44,453.
Cheltuieli pentru grădinița
And
copilului.
kindergarten
Este
expenses,
53.440
53,440 lei.
Cheltuieli. Un secund. Cheltuieli pentru vacanțe.
Then expenses for
Complex
vacations,
tour.
for
Vorbim
complex tour,
41.940
41,941 lei.
în total.
Altogether,
sunt cheltuieli de
that is 227,734 lei. Do you confirm that expenses, or did we add something extra here? I confirm.
Da, vă mulțumesc.
Deci, cu excepția, zic,
Except
acele sume de rambursare a
that,
creditului care au spus de 126.000 de lei,
126,000 lei reimbursement of a credit. We didn't put it in here, only the cash. We are only speaking about cash, because the other amount included the bank transfer. In this way, if we make a deduction, 409,200 minus 27,734, it ends up that in the end of 2021, you, in cash, could have had only the amount 181,466 lei. While in the declaration for 2021, you reported under savings at the beginning of the year, 2022, 205,000.
Cum explicați această
How do you explain this difference of 23,000, almost 23,000, between what was declared as savings and the cash flow that you could have had available, and the result of the subtraction as a balance of 181,466 that you could have had by the end of 2021?
am să explic.
I will explain.
Eu, având în vedere că n-am făcut
Given that I
cursul anului, deci o evidență a tuturor
did not
cheltuielilor
keep records of all expenses
consumale
during the year of my
familiei,
consumption expenditure, of my
mie
family's
acum
consumption
chiar îmi vine
expenditure,
greu
it's really hard for me
să
right now
explic
to explain. Sorry, we did not add the consumption expenditure here. This is without consumption expenditure. This is only cash flow
ați obținut,
that you obtained, including the 109,000 savings at the beginning of the year and the expenses you had in cash. We did not add the CEP here. If we add the CEP, the discrepancy becomes even bigger between the 205,000 declared at the beginning of 22 and the expenses that you made. And according to your calculation, it would mean that in the formula that you expressed now, that I had a negative balance of how much? Not a negative balance, but the availability cash that you could have had at the end of 2021, and it was the 181,466 lei. Then what? But you declared 205,000, so we have a difference of 23,534 lei.
Deci, explic.
I'm explaining.
Alte surse decât cele
Other
oficial
sources
declarate de
than
către mine
what
în acel
was
an,
officially
care
declared by me
nu au
that
fost
year,
devenit și alte
did
cheltuieli
not
la
exist.
fel.
No other income,
Deci,
no
eu,
other expenses.
Repet,
To repeat,
având în vedere sau cifrele care dumneavoastră acum le-ați
the
operat,
amounts
mi-e
that
greu
you are
să
using, it's
desfășor
really
exact,
hard for me to
toate aceste cifre, însă
realize,
eu
to understand
știind
all
ce-a
these
fost, care a
figures,
fost
but
situația
I
mea financiară
know
în
what my
familie,
and my family's financial condition was. So from a mathematical point of view, I just have to combat or fight some numbers that I, first of all, don't have all the calculations here, so that I could elaborate on them in order to be able to provide, an explanation.
Sau aspecte care dumneavoastră le-ați spus acum în
In
discuție.
relation to the comments that
Deci,
you
repet,
made now.
alte surse de venit nu au existat, prin urmare,
Again,
eu
there
știu
was
foarte
no other
bine
income,
că în acel
and I know
an
very well that in that year, 2021,
s-au soldat și cu economii rămase,
indeed I
da,
had savings
la
at the
finele
end of the
anului,
year,
la începutul anului 2022
and that,
de
at the beginning of
205.700
205,700,
deci
and
nu există o careva,
it's not,
după mine mi iasă 13.000, un sold negativ de 13.793
that would make, my negative balance is 13,000 something from my calculations, which is on the fence. But it fits, and given the error margin from the CEP, because that's some average estimates of expenses, so I don't think that the Commission, or there is evidence that I spent 162,000 for consumption expenditure. I declared, for instance, like vacation expenses, vacation expenses. You read it. Does CEP include vacation expenses? Yes, it does. No, but we are not talking about CEP right now. We did not include the CEP into the calculation formula. The formula is only about the cash flow incoming for you during the year and expenses that you confirmed that you had in cash, such as kindergarten, that purchase. If we add the CEP, because the CEP could be, well, some expenses may have been covered, paid by card, so for CEP we could apply it, but right now, what I'm interested in is this difference between savings declared by you at the end of 2021, early 2022, that 205,000, and the fact that according to the Commission's calculation, you could have had at most 181,466, including the cash, 60,000 cash that you received from your relative in 2021.
Deci, Comisia a reținut
The Commission stated as savings at the end of the year, cash savings 205,000. Yes, that's what you declared. No, that's what you declared. But actually, in 2021, I apologize, it wasn't 205,000, but 90-something thousand. In your declaration for 2021, I'm saying during the year how that 205,000 came to be. Out of the 109,000 at the beginning of the year and 90-something thousand, give or take, saved during 2021 until the end of the year. So I don't have another explanation to the Commission. But expenses and income were unlimited. I don't reach any amount that would raise doubts about my financial integrity for that year. Thank you for your explanation. I want to see if Commission members have any other questions regarding this doubt. If not, and if you don't have any additional information, let's move to the last group of questions. That is about your role in a case that became an ECHR case, that's Jeremia versus Moldova. You know about it, yes. In paragraph 21 of that decision, we see that on 1st of April, a prosecutor found found him guilty, but the settlement with him and
Comisia
suspended
întreabă
the criminal
dacă
investigation. So
acesta
the
se
Commission
referă
is
anume
wondering
la
whether
acțiunile
this is
dumneavoastră.
about
Dumneavoastră sunteți
your
procurorul care
action.
a
Are you
semnat
the
acest act
prosecutor
procedural.
who issued that
Exact, și
procedural
regret acest
document?
caz.
Yes, and I
Da, vă
regret
mulțumesc.
that case.
În continuare, pentru a
Next,
clarifica
in
aspectele
order to
acestui
clarify
caz,
aspects of this case,
avem următoarea constatare,
we have the
că
following finding.
aproximativ cu 2 săptămâni
Around 2 weeks
înainte de a
before
emite dumneavoastră
you
acea ordonanță,
issued that
prin
order,
care ați acceptat
whereby
tranzacția de
you
împăcare și
accepted that
ați dispus
settlement,
suspendarea
and you ordered to suspend,
condiționată a urmăririi
to
penale,
conditionally suspend the criminal
a fost
investigation.
emisă o hotărâre a instanței
A
judecătorești
court issued a
raionul
decision
Călăraș,
from Călăraș,
prin care s-a dispus prelungirea
which
protecției
ruled for an
victimelor violenței în
extension of
familie,
a protection
pe-
order for
și
the
anume
victims of a
care
domestic
erau
violence,
victimele agresiunii persoanei
actually who are
vizate
victims
ca
of
agresor în această.
aggression by the perpetrator mentioned in that case. How do you comment on that?
Deci, o să explic. Așa cum am comunicat
explain.
și
Now,
deci,
as
în
I
raport comisia în ronda
Informed and also in the
îmi
question and
susțin
answers
acele
round,
explicații.
I
Vreau să vă zic
support
pe
the same
bune, sincer, îmi pare
explanations.
rău de acest
Honestly,
caz,
I
dar
am
asta a fost un
sorry for
caz
that
în care
case, but this was
la
a
câteva
case
zile l-am preluat
which
în gestiune
happened-
imediat ce am acces în funcție de
was
procuror
assigned
de
to me
execuție.
a couple of days after I became a prosecutor
cum susțineți dumneavoastră,
carrying
a
out
fost-
its
a existat o
cases, but and indeed
ordonanță de
there was
protecție
a protection
până la emiterea de
order.
prelungire, până la emiterea
Well, in order to
soluției
extend the
de
protection order
suspendare
before
condiționată în
I
baza articolului
issued the
59 din Codul
decision
Penal,
was
în vigoare la acel moment.
to suspend the criminal
Sincer să
investigation
fiu,
according to the criminal
această
code at that
soluție am
time.
considerat
Honestly, I
că la
believed
acel
that
moment
solution at
este
that
una-
time to be
De fapt, se pleia perfect în limitele
actually it was
cadrului
fitting
legal la acel
within the
moment
legal
și
framework
a
at
fost
that
din punct
time.
de vedere eficient
And from
și am
my
să
point of view,
încerc
it
să
was
explic.
efficient.
Nu
I
am
will
să,
try to explain
contrazic
why I'm
nici
not
de cum
going to
constatările
contradict in any
curții de la
way the
Strasbourg,
findings of the Strasbourg court,
pentru
but
că și în continuare am să dezvolt de ce.
well, and I will elaborate
Deci am
why.
aplicat această
I
institut,
applied
o
that
soluție care de fapt
measure,
nu e
that is
finală pe caz.
solution that is not a final solution on a
Eu
case.
vreau să trag
I
atenția
want to
comisiei
draw your
că
attention to the fact that
după aplicarea sau
after
după emiterea soluției de suspendare
issuing
condiționată,
that conditional
timp de un an de
suspension
zile,
for 1 year,
persoana,
the
agresorul,
person,
nu
the
a admis
perpetrator,
abateri
did
de
not
la
commit
legislație sub
any
aspect contravențional
violations
sau
of
sub
the law,
aspect penal.
not contravention,
Am citit
not
cu ocazia acestui
criminal
când
law.
comisia a pus în discuție cu mine
When
acest
the
subiect,
Commission discussed this
sincer,
topic
în acest
with
caz
me,
m-a marcat și cumva
This case actually
cariera
impacted
și
me,
am
my
avut
career.
și prin justiție am fost
I was
parte într-un proces de regres
Part to
format de
regress
autoritățile statului. Dar,
litigation
revin. Deci am
from
aplicat
state
această suspendare
authorities.
condiționare în perioada în care
So I applied this solution, and I believe at that time it met all the legal requirements. 1 year, the person, the perpetrator,
a admis
did
ilegalități
not
și
commit
le-am anunțat
illegalities,
eu,
as I
iar la
mentioned.
un an de zile
And
nu am
one
fost eu persoana
year after,
care
it wasn't
l-am
me
liberat
who was
de
the person who
răspundere
released him
penală.
of criminal
Soluția mea a
liability.
fost contestată
My
în ordine de
solution
control
was
ierarhic.
appealed
Ea a fost
under
menținută. La fel atrag atenție comisiei că ea nu a
hierarchy
fost contestată la
proceedings. It was
judecători din
held up, and it
instituții și
wasn't
în opinia
appealed
mea
with
nu
the
s-a
investigative
epuizat
judge, and
remediul
in
național.
my opinion,
Până la capăt.
national remedy
Da,
wasn't exhausted.
Nu știu de ce nu s-a făcut.
I don't know why that wasn't done.
Sincer, dacă
Honestly,
aș da timp înapoi și aș
I
avea
could turn back
această
time
hotărâre
and have that
a curții
decision
care a fost dată ulterior
of
acestui
the
caz,
court issued on
probabil,
this
nu știu,
case, probably
aș dispus o altă soluție.
I would
de
have
trimitere
issued a
sau judecată.
different solution. I
mai
would
mult.
have sent the case to court,
Deci,
not more.
nu știu cum să explic.
I don't know how to explain.
Consider că această
I
încălcare
believe
sau
that
încălcările
violation
sau violarea articolul 3,
of violation of Article 3,
8 și 14
8 and
nu s-a
14
datorat
was not
acțiunilor sau inacțiunilor
because
mele ca
action
procuror de
or failure
execuție.
to act
Această cauză nu
by
s-a
me
aflat
as
în
a
gestiunea mea, adică nemijlocită, mă
executive
refer,
prosecutor.
în exercitare. Ea s-a
It
aflat la
wasn't
organul
handled by me.
penal la
It
MAI.
was with the Criminal Investigation
Procuratura și
Body
eu
of
ca
Ministry of
procuror la acel
Interior.
moment de
The Prosecution
execuție,
Service and
nu
I, as a
eram
prosecutor who was
responsabil
handling the
de
case, were not
prevenirea și
responsible
combaterea
for
violenței în familie,
preventing and
prin
combating
prisma
domestic
legii
violence
speciale.
under the
La acel
special
moment în
law.
vigoare. La acel moment, într-adevăr, la
At
nivel
that
național
time,
era
indeed, at
această lege
national
în vigoare, însă
level, we
mecanismii
had such a law in
de
force, but the
implementare ei nu
mechanism
existau.
to implement it
Deci,
were missing. Therefore,
Ordonanțele de protecție nu era clar
protection
cine
orders
este
were not
autoritatea
clear
care
who
trebuie
is
să
the
asigure
authority
executarea
who
lor.
is supposed to
În
ensure
principiu,
their
poliția.
enforcement. Mainly it
Era
was
organul
a
teritorial de
police,
poliție.
the territorial police precinct.
Deci, nu știu, eu consider că am
I don't know, I believe
condus
that
eficient
I
urmărirea penală și
led
soluția
the
pe care
criminal
am
investigation efficiently, the
primit-o
solution
sau
that I
emis-o la acel
issued
moment,
at that
stipulează
time
perfect în
is
condițiile legii.
perfectly fitting
și vreau să
the
zic că
legal
pentru mine,
provisions. And
zic că
for
acum,
me,
reșind din abordările și
right
toleranța
now,
zero și față de
based on
acest
the
fenomen,
approach
eu
at
susțin
zero
în continuare în
tolerance
activitatea mea asta a fost o lecție
towards this phenomenon,
pe care
I'm
eu
stating
am
that
învățat-o
it was a
și
lesson learned for me
colegii
in
mei
my
care
work.
sunt
And
la
my
din
colleagues
evaluare
who
o să
will hear me
cunosc
again,
ce vorbesc.
they will know what I'm
Dar,
talking
deci,
about.
asta e.
But that's it.
Altceva decât ceea ce am comunicat nu am a spune.
I have nothing to say except for what I've already said.
Deși am văzut
Actually,
trag atenție comisiei, deși
I would like to draw your
hotărârea CEDO se
attention
anunță
that
că,
the ECHR
ca și cum în
decision
soluția mea, eu am
mentioned
spus
that
că alte
my
infracțiuni să
solution,
nu
I
comit,
said
în
that
realitate,
he
dacă o
should
să
not
citiți, o să
commit
fie citiți
other offenses. In reality, I said that he should not commit
este o diferență de
offenses
interpretare.
at all, because there is a difference. Like other offenses, it's like it seems like I, as a prosecutor, said that this specific offense is not important. I did not communicate that. I just said that he should not commit any offenses at all, and he did not, and that was confirmed by another case prosecutor, which wasn't appealed also, so I don't know how to explain it. That's the situation. That's from what I remember, obviously. Thank you for your answer. Nevertheless, looking into the factual and to the jure reasons underpinning your order, in your reasoning, you made such a comment. You reasoned the suspension that he committed a less serious offense. He did not abuse drugs or alcohol, had 3 minors to support, was highly respected at work, and did not pose a danger to society. Looking at that, even in your previous declarations, in the several cases of wives' complaints to the law enforcement bodies about domestic violence, she was claiming that the perpetrator, being inebriated, used or applied physical force against her, saying that he had 3 minors to support the protection order that was extended when your order was issued. Those 3 children were also under protection, and there was an interdiction for him to get closer than 500 meters to him. So it was valid for the wife and for the children. Speaking of being respected at work and in the community, we did not find any characteristic received from work so that we could consider that. But in your order, we did not receive anything about the aggravating circumstance that there was a conclusion from the court about that protection measure that was applied against him as a perpetrator. How do you explain that? I'm not sure whether it existed it was in the case materials at that time, but I don't want to justify my action. I'm not sure, but I would like to ask the Commission, because Commission 1 had access to the case materials, and there's from the beginning to the end all the documents from what I've seen. So I would like to ask the Commission to analyze those documents. I don't know if that decision to extend the protection order was in the case materials before I issued the order, the solution. But I would like to say that after the conditional release, conditional suspension, this order the protection order was not extended anymore. So after the condition, after that conditional suspension of criminal investigation, he would have trespassed again, looking at that period of time, if we will to look back, that conditional suspension measure, as long as it did not favor him to keep committing
și-au mai comis,
crimes,
consider
he
că a fost
understood
eficient
it
în
and he
practic,
did
fiindcă
not
victimele după
commit
asta nu
any
au fost
other
abordate, agresate și
acts
nici
because the
plângeri
victims
cu
after that were not
această persoană
violated, were not
nu au existat. Din
subject to
câte
aggression, and
cunosc,
from
eu nu
what
știu
I
dacă
know, there were no
există
other complaints
efectiv.
from them
După
towards
ce am
this
emis
person.
soluția, la o perioadă de
Because
timp
I don't
scurt
know,
am plecat, am fost transferat în altă
shortly after I issued that
Și
solution,
nu
I
a
was
fost eu cel
transferred
care
to
să
a
mă
different
intruzesc. Mai
territorial
departe,
office, and I didn't
modul de
keep monitoring that
de
case
executare
about
a
the way
ordonanței de suspendare condiționată, fiindcă eu am
that
expediat organul de poliție
order was monitored, because I
pentru
sent
a
it to the
asigura
police
executarea
in order
și
to ensure the
mi
enforcement.
vine greu acum să,
And
dar
it's
nu a
hard
fost eu
to
cel
say
care am
now,
eliberat
but
și
I was not the
oricând,
one who
mai mult ca atât, acest
released
caz a fost și în
him. And
vizorul,
moreover,
deci,
this case was also
unor subdiviziuni a Procuraturii Generale. Deci
watched
dacă
by
și dacă
some
la acel
subdivisions
moment,
of a
acum e ușor
office of
să
a
spunem
prosecutor
după
general.
acest
You
caz
know,
a fost condamnare, eu vă zic,
after this
îmi pare foarte rău
conviction on
să
that
ajung
case,
să
it's
con-
really
să statul
easy to
să-
talk about it, but
sau cerul să
I'm sorry that
constate violarea celor trei
PCHR
articole.
had
Chiar
to,
regret, dar,
to reach the conclusion
zic,
about
am
violation of
avut-
those
am
three
acționat
articles,
cu bună
but again,
credință
I acted in
și,
good faith.
da, lipsă de
And
experiență,
again,
dar
that was lack of
poate nu
experience.
justific chestia
Maybe
asta,
that doesn't
lipsă de experiență
justify
în
the
acel
lack of
moment, dar
experience
n-am-
at that time, but
Cer scuze, dar
I am sorry,
dumneavoastră
but you
ați activat peste 5
act
ani în calitate de ofițer de
for
urmărire penală.
more than 5 years as a criminal investigation officer, and being in Buiucani, I believe that you had at least 40 cases similar to that one, and saying that you did not have experience after having worked there, I really have doubts about that.
Poate e o părere, poate obiectiv, subiectiv.
Well, maybe that's your objective, subjective opinion, but I was in a, you know, it's a different situation when you take a solution. You're not the officer who just suggests a solution. When you are the one to issue the solution, it's different. It's different
E o altă
from
situație decât în cazul în care acționezi ca un
from
ofițer de
the,
urmărire
it's
penală.
different from the situation when you are a criminal investigation officer.
Nu știu ce să zic.
I don't know what to say.
Eu afirm ferm că am
I am
fost într-adevăr în
firmly
acest caz
stating that
cu
in
bună
that
credință
case I acted in good
și bine
faith
intenționat și
and with
am
good
acționat în
intentions, and I
legii la acea
acted
moment
within
în
the
vigoare.
boundaries of a law that was enforced at that time.
Apare întrebarea firească, dacă
You know, there's a natural
de ce
question
atunci au
coming
plătit
here.
statul după
Then
asta?
why state
altfel nu pot să-mi
authorities,
explic,
because I can't explain it
au
otherwise,
întreprins măsuri eficiente și
why
acest caz a fost un caz
did they
care
undertake
a atras
efficient
atenția
measures? And
autorităților
this
centrale
was
și
a case that drew the
implementat la
attention of
nivel
central
național
authorities and led to
mecanisme de
implementation
combatere.
of laws and mechanisms.
318 prim ordin de restricții, 320 prim cod
And articles were added to the criminal procedure code on protection orders and others.
Asta e,
I don't know how to explain that.
totuși,
Still, ECHR,
faptul că eu nu am
and by the way, the fact
și în raport cu
that
mine nu
I
este o
was
răspundere
not
individuală, așa cum enunță
guilty
legea
and there is
privind
no
agentul
individual
guvernamental.
liability as provided for by the law on the governmental agent. That is proved by the rigorous actions filed by the Ministry of Justice in the past at all three levels. I don't know why state authorities hesitated to check, because I really,
cum să zic,
how to put it,
chemat în justiție
I
să
was
dau explicații vis-a-vis de acest fapt și vă zic că
to justice to provide explanations
m-a
about
marcat și
that,
n-am
and
primit
it
nicio zi
impacted
contra
me.
o-
And
Eu vă mulțumesc că eu nu mai am întrebări. Dacă cineva din colegi...
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else?
Any other questions at this time?
Nu.
I think we're coming to a conclusion of this portion of the hearing. Mr. Tetcu, at this point, I would give you an opportunity to make a brief closing statement to the commission.
Da, vă mulțumesc până a trece
Thank
la
you.
cuvânt de încheiere,
Before my
dacă-
final
dar având în
remarks,
vedere totuși pe anii
but also
2020,
considering that for the years 2011, 2012, the Commission did not address the negative balance, then I guess there's no point in me sharing with you these excerpts, because I think the Commission has already seen this from other places, has already
La final,
had some information, but
We're
ultimately,
happy to receive any additional information you have today.
Eu cred că dacă aveți necesarul, puteți să le
well,
transmiteți
if you
prin mail
need
Comisiei
to share this
Adiționale
with us, you can share this with the Commission by email. You can send that to us.
la final,
Well, at the end, what I would like to communicate is that I would like to thank my family, relatives, third parties that were not indifferent to my requests, and they've accepted them, and within a pretty short period of time, they gave me the information, the documentation that I needed to pass it on to the Commission, and they've helped me out to address certain doubts, to mitigate them, and I would like to, in particular, thank my mother. She'd always ask me, what is this about? Because with the first commission, for instance, she would ask me, what is the integrity, financial integrity questions about? What are they about? So how are things going? And I didn't have an answer. My financial integrity issues are not about wealth. I don't have a house, I don't have land, I don't have accounts, I don't have businesses. It's only about living on the limit, borderline, practically on the basis of the whatever the income the state was giving me. But now things have turned around in a way where the government is asking me, how did you make do over these years? And I would like to thank her, not only her, but my mother-in-law too, and all those who made donations. Those donations somehow helped us stay in the systems, the one that I was in first, and then the next one. And I did not have to go abroad as my parents did in order to be able to provide for my family. I know that it might look not quite believable, living in a rented apartment for so many years and having to put some limits to yourself, and then to have your children ask you, why are things happening like this? It's very hard. I don't want to appear a victim before your eyes, but it's very difficult. And I think that as far as I'm concerned, there can be no serious doubts as to the violation of the legal regime of declaring assets and personal interests, incompatibilities and restrictions. I have not accumulated wealth, and my situation, my assets, my material assets, I think the Commission is persuaded of the fact that I had nothing, I have nothing except for my family that I'm proud of. And my family, same as myself, has gone through this experience, and it was not a nice experience at all. It was necessary, and I was a supporter of this. Over time, I guess we will see. There was a colleague who mentioned that it was like a cold shower for us as prosecutors, but this cold shower shouldn't be as cold as to affect one's health. A cold shower isn't bad to become stronger only, not the opposite. I hope I was persuasive enough, and I hope that you felt how sincere I was in the statements I made before the Commission. Thank you for being patient with listening to me, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tetcu. We thank you for your participation throughout the evaluation process and at the hearing today. The Commission will now deliberate on this matter and issue a decision as soon as possible, so I'll declare this hearing to be closed. Thank you.